Hello, hello, hello. Top of the morning, everybody. Top of the morning. Let's do this. Let's do this. I hope it's recording. Let's make sure that everything is recording accordingly. Are we recording? Okay. Top of the morning, everyone. My name is Tshidi, and I'm back with another video. Just want to do some sound checks to make sure that everybody can hear me, because we should be live at the moment. So please tell me if you can hear me. I'm just trying to check. I've just logged in onto my LinkedIn as well. Yeah, let me cut my sound so that I don't have to make everybody hear my voice. Can you guys hear me? Can you guys hear me? Just trying to follow up and make sure that everything is functioning properly. So far, so good. On my side, the sound seems to be working. Yeah, man. Today is a very special question. So I'm focusing on something very different than what I've done before. So I'm just gonna join into this call and I'll look at some of the questions that you guys or the comments that you might have. Anything that you guys have got, anything that you'd like to cover. But as I mentioned in the last conversation, I do have specific topics that I'm going to address. And today's session is talking about the things recruiters don't tell you. Thank you so much, Refula, for sharing that. I'm so happy to hear that on your side you can hear everything. Um, let's see. So everybody should be able to hear where we are at. And what I will do is towards the end of obviously this live stream, I'll do a recap of some of the topics that we spoke about so that people can at least know exactly what we spoke about, those that might be joining a bit later. But yeah, I am so Alejandro, thank you so much for joining this call as well. So it looks like there's a few people that have already they can hear me properly, which is good. That means my setup is working for now. It's a really crazy setup that I've tried to put up. I've got my camera ready up there. We've got a few other things that are working to make sure that everything works according to plan. So um, we're still waiting for a few more people. We've got 10 people already now on the live stream. We'll check if there's any other people on the other side, but we're not going to wait for too long because I think this is a very important topic that a lot of people, don't normally speak about. Now, this is not to say that recruiters are bad people. So I think let's maybe make that clear out there. It's just there's certain things that we don't share enough as recruiters with candidates. And I thought today we should come and address some of these things and hear questions that you guys might have related to recruiters and some of the things that you feel you want to know a bit about that some of us have never really addressed to you or we haven't really told you about as recruiters. So there's probably going to be a few of my recruiter friends that might join the call. They'll reply in some of the comments section below as well. So if you want to speak to or if you want to find out something specific from a recruiter friend, please just write the comment there. And the assumption is that somebody will at least respond to you as soon as possible. So this is basically where we're going to address. And I will look at some of the comments. Now, my comments are in another screen. Unfortunately, Ecamm Live is not able to showcase all the comments from LinkedIn, but I'll make sure that at least whatever we get, we're able to put that. The YouTube comments, I'm able to see them on my Ecamm. So if you are joining us on YouTube, please don't forget to go join on that side, write the comments, whatever you might have, and I'll respond to everything that's coming your way. So now that we're here, let us actually jump straight into this topic as to why I decided to pick this topic. So, as I mentioned in the start of this call, one of the things that we've realized in the last couple of, or that I've realized in the last couple of months, is the fact that there's quite a lot of things that people would like to know about what it is to be a recruiter. And there's also quite a lot of misinformation that goes out about what recruiters are doing and why they're doing certain things. And I think it's sometimes not really the best thing. So the first thing that we wanted to talk about is recruiters don't speak about the importance of first impressions. Now, first impressions are extremely important because in everything that you do, your interaction with different people, it gives a specific impression of who you are going to be like to work with. Now, these days, a lot of the stuff is virtual. So most of the time you won't actually have, as many interactions or physical interactions with a lot of people. However, your first impressions as to the interaction with whoever it is, whether it's online or if it's any other format, is extremely important because in most cases you'll find that that defines how people think you're going to be going forward in the future. Now, recruiters often have a few seconds or a few minutes or like sometimes 2 or 3 minutes to make a decision on what they think about a specific scenario or what they think about a specific comment that a candidate could have made. That's why it's very important that your first impressions are based on you adding value to that particular space. And it doesn't matter whether you had a bad day, you know, nobody in this world wants to work with very difficult people that they carry their bad days with them, even in job interviews. So that's one of the first things that I thought I should just bring out to say. I know as recruiters, we don't speak enough about it, but it's those initial moments that normally literally light up our conversations with you. And it also sets the tone as to how we're going to share some of the conversations going forward. That's one of the first things. The second thing is about the applicant tracking system, the ATS. Now, this one is a very important one because I've had a lot of scenarios where, for example, some of the people comment online and say, I got rejected. I think this 8 years or whatever they've put in this 8 years is automated the rejection. So sometimes they'll say, oh no, I got rejected at like 10 p.m. at night. I do think, whoever is doing that, it was an automated system. It wasn't looked at by a recruiter. In some cases, yes, that is true. In most cases, that is not true. So what normally happens is that uh, some applicant tracking systems, unfortunately, you cannot schedule the the rejection messages to go out. Some you can schedule them. Some you can actually schedule the rejection message to say it should go out anytime between 8 in the morning and 10 a.m. tomorrow morning, so that at least people do not get messages at 10 p.m. at night while they're still trying to sleep that's telling them that they're being rejected. And I think from a recruiter point of view, it might be something that we as recruiters needs to also be very careful of to make sure that we don't send people bad news on a Friday evening where they're trying to plan for their weekend and to enjoy their weekend. And first thing they get at the, party session that they're having with their friends is a message that says, "Oh, sorry for that job that you actually got applied to, you got rejected." It's a really not a nice thing. If your system is able to schedule the rejections for the next day, please try do that. The reason why a lot of applications also, or a lot of companies do not use automated systems is because automated systems are based on specific parameters. The parameter being, it says, these are the three questions that the system will ask you. If you answer no to any one of these questions, it automatically rejects you. We've had scenarios where people have been unfortunately rejected in the past by other recruiters, mainly because of that automated system, only to find that actually the person might have misinterpreted that question and answered incorrectly. So that's why a lot of us or a lot of recruiters, they will still check your CV before they automate the rejection. The next thing about the applicant tracking system is that what it's got is a lot of applicant tracking systems have got these things that they claim to have AI. I'm using claim because AI is a conversation that everybody speaks about. And the AI, basically what it does is it goes through your CV, looks at some of your skills, looks at what the job is looking for, and tries to map you to that particular job to say, do you meet the job requirements for this particular role? That's what the AI does. And that's why it's extremely important in most cases to try and make sure that when you put together a resume, you try to use a lot of the stuff that you think the job is looking for from a skills requirement point of view. Look at what those skills are, and if you do have those skills, please highlight them on your resume because your ATS is going to screen you out and give you a score. Some cases, the ATS will give you a score of 1 to 10. Most of them are using percentages. So they'll give you a percentage of saying it's, obviously 0 to about 100%. Now, where the issue comes in with those percentages that come out from an ATS point of view is that the problem with an 8 years, given that percentage, is that some systems that companies have put in place do say if somebody scores anything below 50%, it should automatically reject you. So that's why I'm saying in some companies, yes, the ATS does automatically reject, but majority of the companies, they do not usually use that to make sure that you get automated rejection by that particular company. So that's one of the things that we should highlight. Number three is the power of networking. So what I'll do is as I go along, guys, please, if you have some questions, like I said, I can see some of the questions that you guys have put in there. If you do have some of the questions that I might not have yet spoken about, please bring them up so that at least we can address them here and then we can have this nice interactive discussion together. But the third thing that I was talking about is the power of networking. Now, the power of networking speaks to the fourth point, which is the unadvertised job market. Now, the power of networking is about being able to say you are in a specific industry. Let's say you are a lawyer. You need to make sure that within that law space, you build a network of people that are of like minded individuals that do exactly the same things. Because if you do that, you'll find that the next bullet point, which is the fourth one, which is talking about an advertised job market. In most cases, if somebody's got a job in that team and they're not yet sure whether they actually want to advertise that job externally, those people are more likely to reach out to you to say, hey, listen, I know you and I spoke a few weeks ago and you were talking about intellectual property law that you were doing. And I know you've done that for the last couple of years. Would you be keen to have a conversation with one of my colleagues about your experience? Because they might be looking for somebody in that particular space. So the networking, having a LinkedIn profile that's just there and you register it, you update it once a year, doesn't always work to your advantage. So we always advise that if you do have a LinkedIn profile, try and connect with people that are in that particular space. I've done a video before, and that video speaks about how to connect with people that are in your same space. So you guys can check out that video in my YouTube channel. If you haven't seen it, I'll add it also to the link below on my YouTube page. So this will also be captured on my YouTube page. So you can also go check that video out. It gives you sort of ideas of how to reach out to people that are doing the same type of things. The next thing is also connecting with recruiters as well. There are times where you're actually looking for different jobs or you're looking at different recruiters. Reach out to recruiters, connect with them, because in some cases, some recruiters or some companies are so small that they don't have the recruitment license. So in most cases, the recruiters depend most of the time on the networks that they've already built. So you find that recruiters that specialize in legal recruitment will build a lot of networks around legal skills so that when they're looking for somebody in that particular space, they will literally go look at what they call the first connections in that particular connection to say, hey, are you looking for opportunities in this particular space? So that's one of the nice things about that is the fact that these things will help you grow your network and people will reach out to you before you even reach out to them when you're looking for opportunities. And then the fourth one, as I mentioned, is the unadvertised job market. Not all job openings are advertised, and not all job openings will be seen on LinkedIn. I know LinkedIn has become such a popular platform that a lot of companies actually advertise the jobs there. But not all companies actually advertise their jobs on LinkedIn. Some companies do not have the resources to be able to pay for a LinkedIn advert. So what they do is they advertise the jobs directly on just their company page. And once again, I've done another video about how to find jobs, which also has what we call a Boolean search string. So check out that video as well. The video talks about how to search for jobs on Google. So it's not about how to search for jobs on LinkedIn, it's about how to search for jobs on Google. So go check it out. It'll show you how to find jobs that might not necessarily be seen on LinkedIn or the popular platforms that might exist because the company might be small enough, not be big enough to be able to afford to pay for those services. That's the fourth one. Number five is this lovely one called flexible job requirements. Now, the flexible job requirements, guys, is in the sense that most of the time, company will give you a job spec that says, here's what we're looking for. We're looking for a legal advisor with 10 to 15 years experience, and they should have property law, they should have intellectual property law, they should have litigation experience and all these. So they've got ideas of what they're looking for. And some applicants will go in and apply for that job and say, you know what, cool, I'm going to apply for the job because that's what they're looking for. And I've got like maybe 6 or 7 years experience. And some applicants don't actually apply. You might not have all the skills that or the background that you're looking for. If you do not apply, unfortunately, you're missing out on an opportunity. What I would advise, though, which is very important, is if a job is looking for extensive years of experience. So nowadays, we try to put the words extensive years of experience instead of putting 5 to 10 years experience, because extensive years of experience, showcase that that's likely a senior job. If the job is not putting extensive years of experience, or it's put that in there, and you've got about 5 years experience, or you've got 6 years, and in most cases, you think in this job is looking for 10 to 15 years experience, there's nothing wrong with applying because your experience might actually be unique enough for the managers and the recruiters to still be excited about you. So the job requirements are flexible to that extent, in the sense that it doesn't necessarily mean that everything, if there's 10 requirements that are there, you should meet all 10 requirements. If you meet, let's say, 5 of these requirements, most recruiters will look at you and consider you. And sometimes you might find that you've got one of the requirements that is even more important for that company than what you actually thought. Influence of online presence. I've spoken about this one, which is the power of networking. Influence of online presence is about being able to say, one of the things that people make a mistake about is we are online, we write everything that we write, and you become one of those people that some companies will say they would like to avoid you because of the type of stuff that you write about online. There are some companies that in the past or currently now look at your social media audit. They do a social media audit depending on the role that you're actually looking at. Like if, for example, somebody's considering you for a PR role, or they're considering you for a CEO role or a CIO role, they would normally do a social media search to just see if there's any comments online that you might have put that could put the company in disrepute. I think that's the word that a lot of people are now using, putting the company in disrepute. So that's why your influence of your online presence, what you write, should always be something that you are comfortable with. That if somebody else read about you, they'll still be happy with seeing that. So just be careful what you write in some cases on that. The seventh one is one of those ones that we haven't spoken enough about, is the silence from recruiters. Guys, you apply for a job, you go for a job interview, you get interviewed, and dead quiet after that. Week one passes, week two passes, week three passes. Recruiter still hasn't given you a feedback of whether you the right candidate, they're gonna reject you, or which way. Now, in most cases, you'll find that it's actually not that the recruiter wants to not give you the feedback. Some cases there's a few things. So number one is that there's certain things that where one, the recruiter might be waiting for feedback from the hiring manager, and they're following up to say, what do we say to this candidate? So that's one of those things. Number two, in some cases you might find that you're one of those candidates that they really do like, but they're not quite sure about one or two other things. And because there's two other candidates in the process, they then saying, you know what, before we reject or give this person the next final stage, let's maybe go through another 2 or 3 interviews. And because it's based on candidates' availability, you might have done your interview on Wednesday, but the other candidate might only be available next week, Thursday, or next week, Wednesday. Yes, I know recruiters needs to be able to give you feedback to say, hey, listen, we still haven't forgotten you. We will give you feedback maybe next week, Friday, when we now have feedback, because the recruiter or the manager is going through other applications. But because that doesn't happen, it doesn't mean that, they really have rejected you. It just means sometimes there's different processes that are happening. So that's one of the things that we don't share enough to say. Yes, recruiters sometimes ghost you. They're not trying to ghost you. In some instances, it comes from the other areas. The eighth one is very, very important because this one talks about money. I think I've had a few people that I've spoken to in the past that speak about, oh no, these recruiters don't want to pay us. I've had that comment where it's like, oh, recruiters don't want to pay, like they're horrible people. One of the things I wanted to just clarify from a recruitment point of view, I'm just trying to explain these things because I think it adds value. In most companies, you find that a salary decision is based on the hiring manager's acceptance or understanding of your experience and your background. In most cases, also comp and benefits team, as well as the HR business partner. And recruiters sometimes also get involved. So there's these four people that discuss what salary needs to be paid to that particular candidate. That's what happens in most cases. So because of that, the assumption is that recruiters are making it difficult for me to get the right amount of money. It's not always recruiters that are making the decision. In most cases, actually, all these four people that are going back and forth about where they think you actually rank when it comes to that. And in some cases as well, the most important thing that you need to understand is the final decision sits with the hiring manager. It doesn't always sit with recruiters or HR or any other person. The final decision as to what you need to be paid based on how the team is paid within that particular individual is with the hiring manager. That's one of those key things that we need to look at. Now, these are the last two things, and then I'll go through some of the questions. I see Sivuyise has got a question or a comment that's there, and I'll just go through it just now. So the second last one is the impact of company culture. Company culture plays a huge role in job interviews. And you might find that sometimes you get interviewed by a recruiter and they ask you all these questions about, tell me about a time when this happened, or tell me about a time when that happens. That is, in most cases, just trying to check from a culture fit if you actually fit into the company culture. It's not necessarily trying to trick you or to do anything bad. It's just, let's check if you actually you fit into the company culture. So the impact of that, the skills and experience are extremely important. You'll find that the hiring managers will focus on that in the job interviews, whereas the impact of the culture and how you fit into that team and how you fit into the company culture are extremely important for that particular company. And then the last one that I wanted to actually bring up is the feedback loop. The feedback loop, guys, is the fact that if a recruiter hasn't come back to you, I always say after 3 or 4 days, there's nothing wrong with sending a short email to say, hey, you and I spoke, or you scheduled a meeting with me and the hiring manager 3 days ago. I wanted to follow up to find out where I stand. Uh, there is nothing wrong with doing that. So if you ever worried about that because you think the recruiter is going to think otherwise, please, by all means, just send a follow up email to that recruiter to just do a follow up to say, hey, stop ghosting me. What's going on? But don't say it, stop ghosting me. Just say, I interviewed for this particular role 3 or 4 days ago. What I just wanted to find out is the feedback as to where we stand. Should we proceed? Is there going to be process in this particular process? Because then the recruiter can go back to the hiring manager and say, hey, listen, Tshidi reached out. He wants to know what's happening because obviously there's some roles that are coming up that he's actually being interviewed for, and he would like to know if he should, focus on those roles or just only focus on this. So those are the 10 or 11 most important things that I think recruiters don't normally share enough. And I think it's important that we share those things with you guys so that you understand. We as recruiters want to get our feedback, give the recruiters the feedback. Even after the interview process, even after you've gotten the job, there's nothing wrong with going back to the recruiter and saying, listen, top 10 things that I really liked, or three things that I really liked about the process are X. This I didn't really like because I felt like it was giving me these feelings. Because the nice thing about that is that it's room for us as recruiters to improve. So that I'm speaking to you guys this time for this video as one of the recruiters, and that's why I'm actually following up to you guys. And then Sivuyise has said, many recruiters tend not to respond to LinkedIn messages from candidates that have already applied for the different jobs. And you find out that they keep reposting the same job and still blue tick you. Okay, that is true. Not a nice thing that some recruiters do that. And I think it's actually not a good thing that as a recruiter, somebody says, hey, listen, I applied for this job or in the last couple of days, I still haven't had anything, or applied for the job 2 weeks ago, I still haven't had anything, and we keep quiet. So, yes, I do know that that actually does happen. In some cases, if I always say sometimes it's okay to reach out to the hiring manager if you've already had the interview with that person to say, hey, listen, I reached out to Tshidi 2 days ago, or yesterday, he still hasn't responded yet. I just wanted to find out what's happening. That sometimes it's okay to do that. So sometimes it's okay to reach out to the next person and say, I've tried to reach out, nobody's responding. What is going on? Because I'd like to know what's happening. So the feedback loop is extremely important. So yes, some recruiters will ghost you. And if you've reached out to a recruiter on LinkedIn and said, listen, I went through an interview with you 2 days or 3 days ago, you still haven't responded. Is there anything that's happening? Sometimes it's okay to just send back like 3 days later to say, listen, thank you so much for the opportunity to have gone through this. I've obviously tried to reach out to you. You haven't responded, but thank you for this opportunity. I think going forward, I will not proceed with the process because I do not think that this might be the right environment that I want to work with. That gives you a lot of power as a candidate because what recruiters need to understand is that as much as we want you to come and work for us, you're also interviewing us as a company. So that's why I love your questions. So please keep the questions coming because, as I mentioned, this is the chance for you guys now to bring in all the questions, all your experiences that you've had with recruiters so that we can address them. And I do know a few of my colleagues or a few of my friends are also in this live stream. They will probably respond to some of these things. So if you do have one of these questions that I might be able to answer, please do bring it up and I'll definitely let whoever is also on the call that is a recruiter to help address that. Cool. Any other questions that's on your side that we might be able to address? The the other thing that I wanted to say is from a recruitment point of view, this one is important. It's a topic that nobody's brought. I didn't bring it up because it depends on the country that you're applying from, and it's the question about asking for uh, what do you call this? Asking for pay slips. I've done a video about that to say how to say no to sharing your payslip. Now, I do know in some cases there's assumption that recruiters want to see your payslip so that they can pay you less. Some recruiters do that, which is true. But you find that recruiters in most in-house as well as in some agencies, they ask for that because it's a requirement from the company, not necessarily a requirement from them. The company sometimes says, based on our policy and how we want to make a decision on this particular package, we want the following people to have the following. They need to have this, that, that, and if they don't have payslip as that, we can't proceed with them because we want to know if we can afford paying these particular individuals. Sometimes that's just a requirement from a company point of view. It doesn't necessarily mean that that's what the recruiter is asking for. However, it is also okay to walk away from a job mainly because they're asking you for that and you know that your salary is a bit lower. And if they see your salary, they're not going to want to pay you the right level. Sometimes it's okay to actually walk away and say, listen, you know what? I'm okay. Thank you so much for this opportunity. But because salary for you means the most important thing, I can't proceed with the process. Cool. Ooh, I'm sweating now. It's these lovely lights. Any other questions before we close the stream? I think we'll probably close the stream in the next 2-3 minutes. If there's no other questions that you guys might have about things that recruiters do not tell you about job interviews. Okay. The other thing, just also to highlight from a candidate point of view, that's also important is if you're going through a job interview with another company, and that job interview is getting closer and closer and the company that you really want to work for still hasn't responded to your application, it's always nice and it gives you so much power when you reach out to the recruiter or the hiring manager and say, I met with you last week or I met with you on Monday for an interview. I'm currently on the final stage with the company that has also reached out to me. And I think the interview is probably going to be next week, Monday. What I'm looking for is just feedback as to whether you guys are wanting to proceed or you don't want to proceed so that I can make a decision on which company I'm going to lean towards. It gives you power in the sense that one, it fast forwards the process of the interview process that's happening on the other company. It gets them to wake up a bit. Number two, it also shows the people that you're not desperate for that job. You're looking for other opportunities. And I've seen some candidates use that so well, even sometimes in salary negotiations. And for salary tools, guys, um, use Glassdoor, use PayScale. Sometimes you can just go on Google and say, how much do this job that I'm looking for pay? And then you'll find all the different salaries that people have put there already. Any advice for applying internationally, specifically from South Africa? Yes. I've had a few people reach out to me about they want to move over to Europe or they want to move to Canada or to the US. I think I just want to give it a a disclaimer before I actually answer this question. And the disclaimer is about I'm not an immigration lawyer, so in most cases I actually don't know most of what the other countries are looking for. However, my advice is if you're ever looking for opportunities abroad and overseas, there's a few things that you can actually do. Number one is go into that country's immigration laws, first of all, to understand what they're normally looking for. So that's the first thing. Look at what the immigration laws are looking for. So, for example, countries like Germany as well as Switzerland, there's normally a language requirement. Like in Switzerland, we've got 4 different languages, but the languages that they would normally require is German, Italian, as well as French. So in some cases, you'll find that companies would want you to speak either one of these 3 languages. And if you don't speak one of these languages, then you would normally not have that opportunity to actually even get that job. They'll decline you upfront. So that's the first thing. Number two is understanding what type of visa you would qualify for. And that's why I always say go to the immigration company's page, because if you don't know what type of visa you qualify for, then you're going to struggle. So, for example, Australia uses a point system. Canada uses a point system. So they'll look at, what degree you've got, what age you are, how many kids you've got, any other, like they'll look at all these things and they score you as per different points. Once you know that, then you basically are able to then say, I do qualify to go to Australia because I've got English, I've got this, I've got that, and then I need to actually be able to then apply to the Australian companies. The other thing is, for example, Australia, they've got an English language requirements. They write IELTS. The UK, they used to write TOEFL exams. So, like I said, depending on the country that you want to apply to, just go onto their websites. They normally have the Home Affairs Department to see what the requirements for that particular country is. Because once you know the requirement, it becomes a lot easier to figure out if it's something that you'll be able to apply to going forward. The next thing that you then have as well from an application point of view is there's 2 ways. Number one is you can either apply directly to the company and with the hope that the company will be willing to pay for your visa and your relocation. And if you have those specialized skills, that's a lot easier. If you don't have the specialized skills, in some cases, we've got ancestral visas, which says a family member, like a father or somebody who's got like they are from that particular country, then they can help you, get that visa from that location. But my advice, the easiest thing is before you start applying for the jobs in the different countries, go onto the website of the different departments as well as the labor law, the labor departments, because sometimes you'll find that where there's economic affairs, they would write about which jobs they're looking for in the market. Like I saw somebody the other day saying that Australia is looking for a lot of teachers. You need to have this, you need to have that, you need to have this. Canada is looking for teachers, looking for nurses, looking for this. So look online first to see what type of jobs that country is looking for, because those make your application process a lot easier. Because if, for example, you do not have the skills that the country is looking for most of the time, you're not going to be able to get that job. Any other questions? I think this is probably the last 2 minutes and then we can close the live stream. Any other questions that I can just address and then we can take it from there? Anything else? I'll just give it a few seconds. If there are no other questions that come up, we can then close this live stream and we will meet in the next one. There is a video that I just loaded just now, guys, that is now on YouTube. It's the top 10. I know somebody made a comment to say I shouldn't say the best questions that you'll get. It's the top 10 questions that you're guaranteed to get in most job interviews. You'll always have somebody somewhere asking one of these questions. One of the questions is, where do you see yourself in the next 5 years? I do think that we shouldn't be asking that question in 2024, but people do still ask that question. So if you want to check it out, please check it out here. And then for anybody that might be looking for my channel, just search for Tshidi on YouTube, or just search for Top of the Morning. You'll find my YouTube channel there. There's a lot of videos. Most of them are less than 10 minutes, so it doesn't take too long. Top of the Morning, once again, thank you so much, guys, for being part of this live stream. Looking forward to hearing more of your comments. Let's connect on LinkedIn. If you have any other questions that you might want me to address and you don't want your manager to see you asking these questions, send me a message on LinkedIn. Let's deal with some of those questions. I definitely do try by all means to answer every question that I get on LinkedIn. So I do respond to people on LinkedIn. So if you have any questions on LinkedIn, please reach out and we'll be able to address those. Thank you so much, guys. It's been fantastic having this discussion with you guys. Looking forward to the next video. Cheers.